Okay, so it's what one? It's like 1:20 in the afternoon. Yet I'm still drinking coffee. I'm trying to finish up my work day here on a Friday to try to get done and be done for the rest of the week. So I have a little bit more time to do, and then I'll be done and start my weekend early, which is what I like to do. Be sure to join the Discord, which is going to be down in the description box below. We talk about a lot of different things there. This video is going to talk about Haiti and what has recently happened in Haiti, which was a horrible, horrible thing that should have never, ever, ever even come close to happening. Um, I even say the same thing here in the U.S. when the whole Capitol thing happened. You can disagree with someone or have whatever beliefs that you want to have or that type of thing, but violence to me is never, ever, ever an answer. Whether it's fist to fist, person to person, or whether you do something as heinous as storming the Capitol, or even more heinous as what they did to the president of Haiti. It's just not at all a good thing whatsoever. And that has created even more instability in a country that is already on very shaky ground, right? Haiti is a place that I've actually went to and tried to actually make some change in a local village, and there was some change. And I've tried to do that on a larger scale. However, you have one of the big issues that has held the country back. Now, people will talk about, in the past, countries that have held Haiti back and all of that type of stuff. And I agree. However, in present day form, a lot of the government leadership, both present and past, hold the country back dramatically. Mainly due to inaction. A lot of it is corruption. Because you may come there, let's say you wanted to build a hospital in Haiti, and you have $4 million. You wanna actually build it. A lot of times, unless someone's getting a kickback, it's going to be very hard to get that project started. Unless you're a foreign government. If you're a foreign government and you have that type of power, it's a little different. But if you are an organization and you really want to try to do something like that, and the bigger the amount of money involved, the harder it gets. That's part of the issue. So when you have the vast majority of people in Haiti, which are wonderful people, the vast majority, 90% are amazing. But you do have those who are in positions of power, or they were in positions of power, and they just literally hold the entire country back. And a lot of this is for self-gain, unfortunately. And even you have individuals. I remember I told the story about, when I was there and we wanted to get some plywood for a project we were doing there. And the local hardware store, because we didn't have a truck to take the lumber with us at the time, we had to bring it back on motorbike, because on the island, there's hardly any pickup trucks or anything like that like you see on the mainland. So they had to go back with motorbikes and carry a big old piece of plywood back. Well, we had already picked out the plywood that we wanted and paid. There's 3 grades of plywood, if I remember correctly, and she chose, the person who was there is the director of a not-for-profit organization. She's based out of California, but she does work in Haiti all the time. And so she picked the high-grade plywood, and you could tell the difference. That plywood had a red paint around the edges of it. It was really nice, very thick. And so they said, okay, no problem, we'll be here for you to pick up. She goes back. So she sends people to go get the plywood, and she's like, you know what, I'm going to go back with them. So she walks back there. It's not super far. When she gets there, she's like, this is not the plywood that I asked for. This wasn't the plywood that I paid for or that I picked out. The plywood that they had there for her to pick up had all these holes in it. It was really not very strong, very thin. It didn't have the red band around it. And she chose that expensive plywood for a reason. because she knew that they would probably do something that was unethical. And so she was telling the business owner about this, and he just kind of smiled and said, like, no, that's not what we were doing. And I said, look, if you want your country to build up, this is not the way that you do it. Short-term gain is not going to benefit you, because people will just vote with their feet and never come here to even help you. They don't have to. The director doesn't have to come to Haiti to try to help. And we're trying to do a project to help advance the population there, and yet you want to run a scam because you think that we're too stupid to realize the difference. And so you have it even on the small local level. You have others who could really and truly do a lot of great things. These are individuals, not necessarily government folks, who could do things, but unless it involves them making a buck, they're not going to do it, no matter how many people it helps. And so that has been a cycle. People can blame other countries, France and the US and all that, for all the stupidity that those countries have done to Haiti, and that's absolutely correct. But when we're talking about day-to-day stuff, this is the type of thing that really holds the entire country back. So much so that even a lot of nonprofits have pulled out completely because there's so much red tape, there's so much nonsense. I remember a guy who wanted to develop one of the islands there long time ago. It was Cow Island or something like that. I can't remember. And they gave him a decree a long time ago and said, you can develop this into a tourist destination. Then years later, once he got the money together to do this, he tries to go there and do that, and no one's allowing him to do it, and he can't even get in communication with people to even take the next step. They say, what decree? What are you talking about? We don't see anything. And then trying to have communication with people, it never happened. And so I think the man passed away. Eventually he passed away, and his kids are like, but he had already spent a lot of money anyway on this, and it never happened. And they're still holding that hope that one day they can definitely make this a reality. So this type of thing has been a consistent issue that keeps the country back. It just does. There will be people who will disagree with that, but I can tell you from firsthand experience that that has been the case. Whether it's from local individuals that I've seen do that, just regular everyday people that have done that, and even people within the government that has done that. I can give you names of people that unless they're getting some sort of money out of it, unless you hand them cash in their hand, or they're getting a kickback off of it or a percentage, there's no interest in them trying to do anything. Now, that does not represent all Haitians, not even close. But the ones who have the power to do something, and then some local individuals, yeah, you do have that. You do have that. I remember there was a guy, too, that was doing translations. And the director explained, because he can speak English and Haitian, and he was from the U.S. but had gotten deported. And so she explained to him, you're doing translations, and this is how much you're going to get paid. At the end, when it was time to get paid, he was trying to say, well, you owe me more than this because, you didn't tell me I was going to spend this amount of time here doing the translations. So even though they agreed with a flat amount, which was quite a bit, he still was trying to argue the point. And she said, look, I will never use you again. I will find someone else who can do translations, which she was naming a couple of people who will be happy to do translations, and I never will hire you again. And so then he eased up and said, no worries. This is fine. It's cool. Because he knew that if she were to say, look, because on that particular island, all the nonprofits are they know each other. And they communicate with each other all the time. Because you're not going to get any information from the local government. The local government on that island is really just in name only. that they have very little power. So he knew that if the nonprofits, which are more like a government than anything, if one says, hey, look out for that person because they're not trustworthy, then he's never going to get the job again. So he eased up off of the situation. And so you have that type of thing that does happen. Regardless, the events that took place with the president should have never, ever, ever happened. Ever. Now, why it happened, we don't know. And they're looking into exactly what took place, why that happened, whatever. But the reason why the country is so far behind, no matter how much money you throw at Haiti, it's because you have the wrong people and the wrong situation there. Now, with respect to that, one idea back in the day was there's an area in Haiti, and I forget exactly where, there's an area in Haiti where they said they should move the capital. Basically saying like the seat of government should not be in Port-au-Prince for many reasons. And they said, there's an area in Haiti that I think is close to the mountain. And if for some reason the country was attacked, they could not, it's hard to attack in certain angles because you have a massive mountain behind you. There's really no way people would be able to do that without everybody knowing about it. It's almost impossible. And they said also that area is better than most because if an earthquake were to happen, it would not be so devastating as it would be in other parts of Haiti because of the land and all of that. I forget the details, and that was the plan. And I remember when Wyclef Jean was trying to run for president, and he was one of the people who also mentioned, the capital should be moved, especially after the earthquake happened, because all of the assets are right there in one place, which is not a smart idea, but everything is right there in Port-au-Prince. Port-au-Prince is plagued by a lot of different issues, a lot of issues. So when that city goes down, everything else is done. when the highway system is shut down, it shuts down connections to other places. There's just no way around it. You have national highways, and all of them feed into Port-au-Prince, and if they're blocked off there's no way to get aid out to these other people. Same thing with the airport. They're talking about, how do we do this? Even though they have other airports in the country, the runways are not not strong enough to handle bringing in a C4 or a full or whatever those big military cargo planes. They can't handle the weight, or they're not long enough. So even though you have an international airport in Cap-Haïtien, it doesn't mean that it can handle that. So they're saying trying to get food and medical supplies to people is next to impossible because all of the built up might is right there in Port-au-Prince. See what I'm saying? Now they've done some other things in trying to make it so that the like ships and things like that and cargo can be done in other places. But still, the vast majority of everything is right there in Port-au-Prince. And so it makes everything just not functional at all. And then when you have some of these other places that are much more remote, it makes it even more difficult because really and truly, the government is only running barely Port-au-Prince. The rest of the country is kind of just there. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's just there. There's many places where you can go. When I told you when I was on the island of La Gonâve, I didn't see any police. Never. I was throughout the whole, didn't see any. I saw a police car outside the police station when we drove by it. Never saw one police officer. I saw a police officer when we got to the mainland. I saw two, but that was basically it. So it really, it's a very fragile situation. Very fragile situation. But this is now a time where sorry about that, somebody sent me a message. This is a time now where they should consider moving the capital or government buildings to a completely different part of Haiti, in my little small opinion. Because, and I know that because after the earthquake leveled a lot of things, they've rebuilt some of these different administrative buildings and things like that. and spent a lot of money on it, those should serve as museums or something, schools, hospitals. Turn those into something else and ask the US government and other governments for, they basically say, look, we want to create a capital and we need your help. And say, look, since there's all this concern about corruption, then you bring in your own construction teams and whatever you want to do and have them build these facilities that we're needing. So the location that I had mentioned that they had been talking about, and they wanted to put a capital, where people have been saying you should put a capital there. Have the roads built, have a small power plant there, have all the government buildings, and make it where no one can technically live there, but it is a government capital. That's what I think that it should be done. Because Port-au-Prince itself is not the right place to have a capital, a working, functioning capital for a country like Haiti. One, it is, when you talk about the violence of Haiti, most of that is concentrated right there in Port-au-Prince, by and large. Once you leave Port-au-Prince, you go to different parts of Haiti, it's like a completely different world, completely different country. So it's an overpopulated city. It already is pushed to the brink in terms of a lot of things. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed there. And honestly, I think that given what happened here, and I know this happened in Pétionville or whatever you want to, I don't know how to say it correctly. And that's just a suburb right north of Port-au-Prince. Still, to me, that's too close. This should be miles away from Port-au-Prince, in my little small opinion. And there are other people who had said this before, so it's not like I'm the first one that created this. But it should be separated. And it should be a place where only the president lives and the seat of government is there. And, again, have its own power system and water supply and all of that, and make it so that it is a protected area. That would be really one of the first things that should be done. It will help get investment built there in Haiti, and it doesn't cost the Haitian citizens anything. It allows the U.S. government and contractors here to actually go there and build, and so obviously these companies are getting paid by the U.S. to build infrastructure in other countries, but it's something that should be done. The reason why I think that the U.S. should do it is if the U.S. doesn't do it, China will. China has been going into different parts of Africa doing the exact same thing because they're filling that void that really the U.S. should probably do. Now, some people will say the U.S. doesn't belong there, the U.S. shouldn't be involved, and yeah, I agree. But now, because there are certain things the U.S. has done that to the detriment of Haiti, it's kind of like they need to figure out ways to actually help the country, in my opinion. As far as the investigations and all that stuff, I agree. But as far as like trying to move that country forward, it's going to take, nonprofits are not going to be able to do that now. It's just too far gone. It's too far gone. The culture, the attitude has to change in the country when it comes to help and assistance and all of that. And I say that with respect, but I'm saying that because, again, if you can't get a local individual who may be, and it's typically the ones that are college educated, but if you can't get those individuals to want to help the population because they're looking for, what are you going to do for me first? That type of attitude and view, in my opinion, has to change before you're going to see investment come to that country. It just isn't going to happen. In fact, projects that I was hoping to do there are now not going to happen because there's no guarantee whatsoever that you're going to have cooperation and that you're going to have the stability that you need to make that happen. Hopefully one day that country, which is an extremely important country in the annals of history, especially when it comes to Black people and descendants of slaves, but hopefully one day that country will become much more stable. We'll be able to have the type of leadership that is not all about a come up or a power grab or money or any of that. Hopefully there can be someone that can be in that country and truly want to see that country succeed and really want to see that country move forward and to help all of the people. Hopefully that is the case. Helping the poor is a way of helping the whole country. When the vast majority of the population is poor and living on $2 or less a day, those are the people that you should help. Lift those people out of poverty versus spending millions of dollars to people who don't really need it. You see what I'm saying? When the vast majority of people don't have access to job training skills, good hospitals, schools, people can't even afford to send their kid to school because there's no true public education system and it being paid for. That type of thing is the reason why you have the situation that you have. Because people feel like they have no options. They have nothing. They don't have access to clean water. They don't have access to reliable power. Most of the roads have potholes in them. People cannot really trust anybody because sometimes you go to people for help and you don't know if it's going to be the right thing, the wrong thing. There's so many different things. So the vast majority of people are amazing people. But it's a catch-22. You're stuck. Then you have people who carry the burden of they could leave. You have a small middle class that's about that big, that's there, of business owners who really and truly, who may have been educated in the US or France or wherever, who could pick up and move. And unfortunately, some of them have. Some of them have got the means and the ability to pick up and leave that country entirely, which only hurts Haiti more. But you have some who are still trying to stick it through and hoping that you can get leadership that can make this work and get rid of those who are constantly a source of problem. They're holding on to hope. That's going to be hopefully the future. And hopefully the rest of the population that is really great, honest, hardworking, giving people will have an opportunity to live in the way that they should, the way that they deserve. It's unfortunate. It's horrible what happened to the president of Haiti. Shouldn't have happened. It's going to do the country more harm than good. My prayers are with the people of Haiti. It just sucks. It sucks. But anyhow, hope you guys enjoy this video. Make sure you join the Discord down in the description box below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.